Hey, welcome to Life in the Leadership Lane. I'm your host, Bruce Waller, where I am talking to leaders that are making a difference in the workplace and in our community. What did they do to get started? And what are they doing to stay there, to stay in that leadership lane? And I am super excited today because we're going to talk to Connie Clark. Connie is certified HR professional with her SPHR. She has her GPHR, and she is the global head of human resources for dairy.com. And I am so excited to have you on the show. Hey, Connie.
Hi, Bruce. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here today.
I am super excited to have you. Okay, so one of the things that I enjoy about the podcast is reflection. And so we've known each other for a long time. You've served the Dallas HR community in different roles, and we've seen each other at social events. But I was thinking back to the first time I think it was the first time we met, but I just remember our conversation. We were at a social event for Dallas HR, and we started talking about HR certifications and the value that they bring the HR professional. Do you remember that conversation?
I remember that. And then you did a blog about it, right?
Yes, because we started talking about, hey, do you think whenever someone has their certification, does it help them in a job search? Does it help them with a promotion? And we really got into this conversation. And it's so funny how, these little moments that we remember. So I am so excited to have you on the show. Hey, I love to start off the show by just learning about our guests. And although we've known each other for a while, I would love for you to share the Connie Clark story. Like, where did you grow up and how in the world did you get into HR, in particular, HR leadership?
Yeah. So, okay. I was born in Chicago, but I grew up in a really small town in Wisconsin and went to Madison, which is kind of like the UT Austin of Texas, right? Very liberal. And I studied business, but one of my counselors got me an internship at Neiman Marcus. And so I moved down here to Texas because that's where the headquarters is for Neiman Marcus. And I went through their buying program, their executive development. I became a buyer. So that was like my dream job. And then I took time off to have my next career, which was my kids, raising my 3 kids. Boom, boom, boom.
That is a full-time job, isn't it?
That is. But the reason why I got into HR is because I saw in Carpool Line a couple other moms had these HR jobs. And I was like, okay, well, maybe that's something that I can transition into. And I realized there are a lot of the same soft skills as retail. You have to hit a sales number, you have to motivate a team, you have to recruit and train and provide, mentorship, and you have to have really good people skills, and you have employee relation issues, right? So there were a lot of different things that led me into HR. And when I had an opportunity to join a software company that had quadrupled in size as an operations manager, I actually raised my hand to the CEO and said, hey, I can do your HR. They didn't have HR, it was outsourced. So I created that HR department there. I did the handbook and benefits and improved comms and brought in LinkedIn recruiting and all this stuff. So eventually, that's how I got into HR. And I just got into Dallas HR and met you. And we talked about certifications. So I got my certifications. It was a global software company. I love global companies because of culture. So I got my GPHR, and that's where kind of I've landed is global software organizations.
So that's fantastic. And I love what you were talking about. Of course, you did your internship. It's kind of where it started and what led you here. But then you start talking about, of course, you took off time to, raise your kids, but observing others and what they're doing, in particular in HR. And one of the things I always like to talk about are mentors. I mean, you're a top level HR leader, but one of the common threads I find is that people like yourself that are leading often have mentors and people that have helped them get to where they are. Do you have some people that have helped you get to where you are?
Definitely. I mean, actually, I think you're kind of one of my mentors, right? We've had lunches and conversations, and you've given advice, and I've got a CHRO who I reach out to, and I have a VP of HR who helps bounce things off and give me some props. And I think what it is just learning from others, how they got there, bouncing off your ideas and what your interests are, and then getting feedback. But also, I think mentorship also comes from reading an HBR article or taking a course, and your instructor can be a mentor. So I look for even people that work for me and how can they mentor me in different things and different ways. So I look at not just one traditional mentor, but just where can I learn? What can I grasp from somebody else's experiences and knowledge, and how can I grow working with that person? So I think mentorships can be different forms.
Yeah, I really like how you frame that, because you're right about that. And those that are listening, get out your pen, get out your journal, because there's going to be some great stuff here. I want to stay on this mentorship for a few minutes, because you also participated in the mentorship in Dallas HR, where you went in and you provided mentorship for area college students. And so when you said mentorship can also be articles. One of the things do you mentor your team members now? And is that one of the ways that we can help others, is just through articles, and share a little bit about how you mentor others?
Well, so through Dallas HR, I was actually in that structured program where I was a mentor to different HR students in the DFW area. I think I've had 3. I keep in touch with a couple, and their careers are blossoming, and it's so fun to see them move up in the HR space. But yeah, I mean, for me, I love like HBR, and I love watching TED Talks and LinkedIn Learning, and just learning from different people out there, and taking a class, from somebody who's gone off to be a consultant and they have a virtual class, or joining the CHRO group that Cindy Lou does, and networking with people there and bouncing ideas. So a mentorship can be just a conversation that you have with someone, where you say, hey, we want to move to this. What have you done? Or I'm having this issue. Have you seen that? And it doesn't have to be formal, right? Like, it can be different times, different people, different groups. But I do like to serve and offer up, guidance. And I have people ping me on LinkedIn and say, hey, what would you do here? And I'm always happy to give my input.
Yeah, it feels good just to help others. And I notice, yes, you do like to serve. I mean, obviously, we talked about Dallas HR. I notice you also serve on another HR board. And so I think that's part of the joy that we make in our careers. I just, one of the things that I always like to ask is around purpose. And for me, I always like to talk about finding your lane. So you are the head of HR globally, and you didn't start there. Was there a time during your career? I mean, Neiman Marcus, then you transitioned to HR, and you're going through the process. Was there a time where you found your lane and you said, you know what, I love this?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I love what I'm doing now because it's a building role, right? And the company's growing very fast, and they've had a lot of growth, and I love growing and I love building. And I think that's just my personality, is growing. And I think that people should always try to grow and learn, and never put limits on their growth, right? I mean, you have people in their 80s that are just starting to do things, or 60s. So never say you're too old. But I was in my sweet lane when I started my career at Neiman's. I would loved it. I was in my sweet lane when I had my family and I was part of their world in school and being involved. I loved it. And then when I created this HR department and came into HR and started building my HR career, I love it. And so I think wherever you are, it's always great to have goals, right? But never try to, like, I think I was watching a LinkedIn program, but this lady said, don't worry about peaking too early. You are where you are. Like, try to stay in the moment and learn and enjoy, because it's, it's the journey that really fulfills us. And that's what I'm trying to do right now, is just enjoy where I am and keep learning and growing. And down the road, I'll look back and I'll say, I was meant to do that because of this.
Man, I really love that. You found your lane in different seasons. And that's interesting because someone was talking to me about that and they're like, "Oh man, you found your lane." I'm like, "You know what? I did, but all of a sudden now I'm doing this podcast, so I'm trying to find my lane in the podcasting or do something different." And I think Camille Tate, she was on the show, great talent acquisition leader, and she talked about how purpose is fluid. And I thought that is so great because you have a different purpose for different seasons of your life. I love that. Oh man, thank you for sharing that. One of the things I'd like to ask, I want to talk leadership. 2020 was a heavy year for many of us. And now here we are in 2021, season 2 of the podcast. We're in the second quarter. So we're kind of learning, we're navigating through, we're continue to be in the pandemic, but we're navigating through that. I always like to ask, the first question I want to ask is, there are so many different ways to define leadership. I'm curious how you define leadership. If someone said, "Hey, Connie, what's leadership to you?" What would you say to that?
Yeah, I've been listening to that lately too. To me, I think it's always good to say, you're leading and people are looking up to you. So I define leadership as somebody who's really going to bring people along and lift others up. That's kind of a servant leadership mindset that I have. So not only having that vision and making tough choices, right? And surrounding yourself with the right people and team, but also bringing up the people under you and creating opportunities for them and being that good role model. So that's how I define leadership.
I love that. In my last book, I talked about the importance of being a lifter. And that's what you're talking about. You see it and then you start helping people, alongside the journey with you. That's fantastic. You have not been in your current role for a long time, right? How long have you been in that role?
Maybe a couple months.
Okay. So a couple months. One of the questions I love to ask this question because it really fascinated me when the first time I heard or I read an article about one of our US presidents and how they have this 100-day plan when they come into office. Yeah. And I start thinking, well, gosh, I wonder if anytime a new leader comes in, if they have like a plan, like a 100-day plan. So I'm curious with you, like, did you have a 100-day plan, or what do you do to build momentum as a new leader in the organization?
Yeah, I think that it's really good to come in and find out what the priorities are for the company, for your manager, what he thinks or she thinks the biggest focuses are for you and for your work to align. So we never want to just work in a vacuum. And then from there, I always like to streamline whatever process I have. Whatever processes can be streamlined, I like to get all of those knocked out so that we can work on more strategic things, but get to know the team, get to know the problems, the biggest problems, get some quick wins under your belt. And then always be sharing. Hey, so we said this was an issue when I started. This is what we did, right? And always keep people up to date. And I also like to get feedback. So, hey, here's what I've put together. What do you think? And it can be changed and molded to your needs. Just what is it that would work for you, and give me feedback. So if you can incorporate that, I think that creates good synergy in your relationship.
Okay, that is fantastic. Okay, it starts with priorities. I love that. Like, what's important to the organization? What are the objectives? What is the mission we're trying to move here? And then, yeah, I love how you talked about, it's about connecting. It's about getting some quick wins, sharing, and then feedback. I want to talk about this feedback just for a second, because feedback, I always say feedback is a gift. And there's a, you can receive feedback with excellence and you can give it with excellence, but feedback can sometimes be tough, especially when you ask that question and then you don't get the response that you're looking for. How, like, for the listeners, are there some like tips around like feedback, the way you approach it? I mean, do you just go up and say, hey, tell me what your thoughts are about this? How do you typically approach feedback?
Yeah. So I think something that you can say is, hey, it's important for me to do a really good job here, and I want to make sure this works for you. So here's what I've done. What do you think? Or you can simply say things like, if you're giving feedback, like, oh, in this situation, maybe next time we could do this, right? So you're kind of looking forward instead of really analyzing and criticizing the past. But definitely, I think it's good to be clear and candid and in the timely, right? Like in the next 2 days, 1 to 2 days, you give good feedback if there's something that's not working. But I think if you come from a place of good intent and you deliver it in a candid, respectful, kind way, and you can also share what's in it for that person, and you can get to that, then people will listen more, right? They'll listen to the feedback more. And then if I'm requesting it, like I said, hey, I put this together, or here are my thoughts. What do you think? Would this work for you? Is there anything different you want to see? Feel free to edit, right?
I love that. I just got through doing a presentation on developing influence in the workplace, and some of the things you're talking about here are aligned with that. So, of course, number one is obviously building trust.
Yeah.
And that's like well, you talked about that. You're like, hey, I'm connecting with my people. I'm trying to find out what the priorities are. And then also, when you mentioned priorities, I was thinking about the second thing is you got to define a problem. And, if it's not a priority in the organization, it's really hard for people to really focus on that. And so as you're talking about feedback and you're talking about ways that you start an organization, really what you're talking about is, hey, I want to go in and I want to try to build trust and really develop, kind of develop some momentum going in. But that's really where it all starts, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's that building that relationship and making sure that you have that connection and they know that your intentions are good. And I think that that's what you have to relay, that influence that you said. You mentioned influence is really important, that they know that they can work with you and you've got good intentions and you can trust each other.
Yeah, and I really like how you talked about at the end of the day when it comes to, and we were talking about feedback, but this could be with anything. If you're coming from an angle of true, like really caring, right? It's not like you have an agenda to prove someone right or wrong or make something happen here. You're just coming in from, really from I don't know, I call it really a more of a heart angle.
It's all about the heart. It really is. It's all about, do you really connect with that person? Are you really caring for their best interests and the business, right? It's not just two people, but we're here for a reason. And you can show that you truly do, and you say things in a kind, respectful way. You're open-minded. Hopefully you two connect on things and come to resolutions and things continue to move forward.
Yeah, I love that. One of the things that I mentioned is that we are still in a pandemic. But we're navigating through this. But we have figured out how to do this remote work thing.
Mhm.
And I'm just wondering kind of what some of your views are around this new world of work, remote work. Is it here to stay?
Well, for sure, people are happy not having to drive an hour in and dry cleaning and lunches out. But then you have people who definitely miss seeing folks. So I think
Mm.
it's collaboration in person, right? We get together, we collaborate, we build relationships, we bond, and then you need that quiet time. You need that time to get work done. So maybe the quiet time is where you can work at home. And I think what really people want is they want to know, they want to have clear expectations of what they need to do in order to be successful. So if everybody's aligned on their goals and communicating about these regularly, then you should know you should have clear expectations. You get feedback on how am I doing, and you also share your progress, right? So here's what I'm doing. What do you think? We talked about this. Here's where we are. Here's the progress. But to me, I think people are really trying, just like you go to a restaurant and you get to choose your food or you get to choose what you want to wear. I feel like people are kind of in the state where they want to choose how they can work,
Mm.
and they want to work where they work best. I know organizations still have this need to get people in, right? We still need to bond and collaborate and get together. So I feel like there's this hybrid workforce. When things clear in the fall, we'll see more and more companies having people come into the office. What does that look like? We still don't know. Are people going to have to wear masks? If they are, maybe they don't come, people don't come in the office as much. If it's nobody wears masks anymore, we may see this like huge surge of people wanting to go back to the office.
Do you feel like you're leading any different? I mean, you obviously are in your role in, 3 months in or whatever. It's a very short time. But you were also in another organization before that when you had to, go remote. Do you feel like you're leading any different in this new world of work?
I think for me, it's just being there and connecting. If it has to be every other day or whatever, I have a new hire that I've hired, and making sure that I'm also, there's a lot of meetings, right? So it is about more meetings. It is, because you can't just walk down the hall. And as far as leading differently, it's just about, hey, here's something that came up. I know it's a priority. We have these other to-dos. Can we get it done? Do you need help? What do you need? It's asking in those questions too. And then listening, and then connecting and making sure everybody has the right tools if they need training, if you need to reprioritize, but also making sure that they can communicate back. This is what I need, or I'm good, or I can't get to it. How do we reprioritize?
So I've heard a lot of different leaders talk about the importance of getting out among the people, right? Walking through the crowd, getting to know your people. But in this remote work, it's hard to do that. So you got to schedule a Zoom call. And it makes more. I'm just curious from you. Is that part of your weekly planning to actually schedule calls with people to check in? I'm just wondering, like, and this is really for the listeners that are listening right now, like, how can I do a better job of checking in and connecting with people? Any thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think that it depends. If you're trying to connect with people who aren't in your normal work group, that you don't have a project that you're working with cross-functionally, you can always just randomly pick somebody and have a little coffee chat, right? Hey, I just want to get to know you. We're not working together yet. But also what I've done in the past, and we can certainly do in any org, is you can do groups of, pods, right? So you can come up with, like an idea board where different groups can, like Google did, you can come up with suggestions, and then you can have different people opt in to working on that idea. And it can be some person from accounting, somebody from engineering, somebody from marketing, or just a variety of people who normally wouldn't work together, but they're passionately working on solving a company problem, and they're getting to know other teammates. So that's one way that you can, right? That's one thing that you could do in an organization.
Oh man, I love that. Okay, so I didn't even think about that. So rather than like setting up a one-on-one Zoom meeting, you could also do some group, like, hey, we're going to get together as a group. And I love what you said about idea board. That's fantastic. I hadn't really thought about that, is putting, just start throwing ideas on the board, and then collaborating with the group on how you can like move an idea or some ideas forward, or do something with them. And then all of a sudden you're connecting really with the purpose.
That's right, because you're passionate about that idea. So you volunteer to be on that committee, and then you have all these different people bringing great new ideas to solve a problem in the organization. And it's that extra time that you give them each week to use their creativity on something that really means something to them. And then at the end, you have a result of something that different folks had collaborated together on, and they got to know each other. And it provides ownership and kind of like entrepreneurship, right? because they own it. They get to bring their thoughts and ideas. So it's a win-win.
Yeah, I love that. So, okay. So nobody's talked about this, and I've talked about this in the past, but just real quick, entrepreneurship. Okay. We've heard of entrepreneurship, but entrepreneurship. Um, and the first time I read that, I was like, that is me. Like, it's almost like being
Are.
your own boss in your organization.
That is so you, Bruce, because you do that. You've come up with your whole new way of working your role, right? And the things that you do and the ideas that you've instituted are incredibly creative, but fulfilling to you and have driven results.
Yeah, no, you're right. Hey, I want to just real quick touch on that word you just said, driven results. I'm curious about you. What drives you as a leader? Like, what really drives you?
I mean, meaningful work, right? Obviously, meaningful work. It has to be meaningful for me. I have to feel like I'm making a difference. I have to be working with good people, have my resources. But to me, what drives me is, obviously my health. It's kind of like the oxygen mask on the airplane, right? I need to make sure that I've got mine on so that I can give to my family, my work, myself. So just taking care of my mental uh, well-being as well. I started meditation as well. And then why am I doing it? It's totally for my family, right? I'm doing
Mm,
all of this in life for my 3 children, my husband, myself, my family. And then the work is my third priority. It's not that work's my last priority, but if I can't put my work over my health and I can't put my work over my family. So it's that's kind of what drives me. Those three things.
I love that. Oh, that's fantastic. You've been really developing yourself for a long time. I mean, obviously, we talked about the certification. I saw on LinkedIn where you've taken some different classes. I mean, you're always continuing to learn and develop yourself as a leader. But now here you are. You're the top leader, top level leader. Will you continue to do that, or what do you do to continue to develop yourself?
Yeah, I think it's just reading and listening and talking to people and finding out what worked for them and then having an idea and saying, oh, I want to do that. How do I do that? Right? How have you done that, Bruce? Right? And then just doing it, just investing in yourself. I've bought several at-home programs, all video this past year and years just to invest in myself. And it's fulfilling. It's my hobby. If I have extra time, I do them. They help in my work. They help in my personal life. So I think for everybody out there, just find out what you're passionate about, what drives you, like you just said, and then put goals out there and never let anybody tell you that you can't achieve anything. Like that's the one thing. And don't worry about the timeline. Like it's all happening. We are at the right place, and just put it out there and keep going and it will happen.
And do it right where you are. Man, this is fantastic. I was sharing with you earlier, this is what I call my growth day. And I didn't realize when I started this podcast, I was trying to pivot it at a time where, like, we went remote. This pandemic caused everybody to push the pause button on relocation. I was like, I got to figure out a different way to, continue to move forward. And so I said, I want to figure out a way. How can I connect? So this right here, connect with people. How can I stay visible? And how can I grow? And I thought about the growth part as like watching videos and doing, and those are great. But I grow from a conversation like with you, Connie. The different conversations I have with guests on the podcast, I have learned so much, and I've grown so much from that. And so I love how you frame that up. It can be just being curious and leaning in to learn about people.
Yeah, definitely. That's what it is. It's just use every situation and every interaction. And you do, Bruce. I mean, you do this perfectly. That's you. You're a connector. You connect with people and you inspire people, right? I mean, you've inspired a lot of people.
I love it. Oh man, thank you so much. Hey, let's talk. So we talked about you leading your team. I want to talk about leading Connie. So
Mhm.
leadership, I mean, it's every day. And so the question I want to ask you is, can you share, like, is there like a daily practice or something you do every day that helps keep you on track? I know you mentioned meditation earlier.
Yeah.
What do you do every day to stay on track as a leader?
Yeah. So I started this thing. It's in the morning. It's anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes, and it's a little daily meditation that I do. I found an at-home program to work out. I'll tell you what it is if you want. It's Melissa Wood Health, and she does yoga and Pilates. So I used to go into a studio. Now I don't because COVID. And I got this one at home, but literally it's 5 to 15 minutes of meditation in the morning. And then after work, I usually walk my dog and grab a bite, and then I do her workout. So they're very short again, so you can fit them, and it's showing up for yourself every day,
Mm,
and it's investing in yourself every day so that you feel strong and that you can decompress. And she's really funny, which makes it even better. And and then it's just reading and connecting with family and eating well and resting well and self-care. And then for work, also what I do is I try to put priorities in my calendar of things that need to get done. I schedule my week. I schedule lunch in there. It might only be 30 minutes. It might not be at noon. It might be at 2. And just schedule yourself, right?
mm.
Schedule things that are important that you have to get done. And then just, have fun. Like you have to have fun. Like why else are we here?
I love it. Dustin Pascal on one of the shows, he said, "We just got to relax.
You
We just got to
do.
have fun." I love what you said because I always talk about, everybody has a different discipline or practice, but at the end of the day, everyone has a system and that's what makes it work. But what you said was showing up every day. I think that's the part I wanted people to hear. And I appreciate you sharing that because that's really what it is, because there's so many days you're like, oh my gosh, this isn't working. I am struggling. I'm struggling, but you keep showing up. And then
Yeah.
one day you're like, how did I get here?
Yeah, that's what you have to do. You have to set goals, and whatever your desires are, whatever your passions are, those are really like your gifts that you need to like come out, right? You need to like you need to water those desires because you have them for a reason. And then every day, just like show up and do little things, and you'll be surprised how, oh my God, you got this opportunity, and oh my gosh, you learned this, and you met this person suddenly came into your life that showed you how to do this or connected you with someone. So every day, show up, enjoy your life, be kind, take care of yourself, grow others, right?
Yeah, it's at the end of the day, you're right. I mean, it's simple, but yet complex. And that is show up, just keep showing up. That's simple. The complex part is sometimes it's hard for this. You may be in a certain situation where it's going to be harder today than it was yesterday, but you just keep doing it. I just love that. Hey, I want to ask you this. I always like to ask this question. That is, have you ever been given any advice? I mean, you found it was so good. It could have been from a family member or someone at work. It was just so good. You find yourself giving that advice to others.
Yeah, I have. Uh, one thing that I like to say is if your heart isn't beating fast enough, then you're not dreaming big enough.
Ooh,
So don't limit yourself, like don't settle, right? And that actually wasn't somebody that a family member, something the family member gave to me. It was actually Tori Birch, and she's an entrepreneur. She created her business, and I think she has 3 boys, and she created it out of her house and her kitchen table or something. And she's got a massive designer line now, and she's giving back to all these women, and she's creating all these classes for them. But it's like, don't limit yourself. Like if it doesn't feel right, go for what you want. The timeline will be there. Just take baby steps. So if you can't, I think it's like if you can't fly, then walk. If you can't walk, than crawl, right? Like just do what you can.
Yeah, I love that. I just wrote that down. If your heart's not beating fast enough, you're not dreaming big enough. Write that down, folks. That is absolutely fantastic. And I appreciate you sharing that. It's going to help a lot of people. Oh man, I always tell the guests, time is going to go by so fast. And this has been so good. So now we're gonna shift over to kind of the last part of the segment. It's called "It's Time to Accelerate." And so I'm just going to ask you some fun questions. The first question I want to ask is, would you rather read a book or listen to a podcast?
Podcast.
Podcast. Wonderful. And I'm just curious, any favorites?
Yours. Life in the Leadership Lane.
Yes. Yes. Makes my day. Oh my gosh, you're the best. What are you grateful for?
I am just grateful for just the day, like everything that I get to experience. I'm going to say, of course, my family and all that too, but
yeah, for sure. Oh man. So we talked about, 2020 is behind us. Here we are in 2021. I always like to ask, like, and you're in a new role, what are you most excited about in 2021?
oh my gosh, we've got so many great things going on at this company. I'm just excited for the future, for all the different things that we're going to get to do, for my family, for COVID coming around the corner, for new growth, new ideas, new technologies, just to see what's going to be out there. Growth and change. I love change.
It's interesting. You just mentioned, I didn't even think about this, but you're sitting there talking about technologies. And, in February of 2020, I didn't even know what Zoom was.
Right.
And then in March, of course, the COVID came, and in April, I'm on Zoom all the time, and I'm like, this is for me. I love it. I've been doing the podcast on Zoom, so that's been fantastic. So when you said, I'm excited about technologies coming in, like who knows what's ahead? But there's probably going to be something good, right?
I think not even just technologies, but new businesses and new ideas and new ways of working, and just tons of things are going to come out of this crisis. And we've already seen a lot of them, right? But life is going to be so different next year than it was last year. And I think as long as people just know that change is constant and growth is important, and look at things differently with a new lens, and be appreciative and be patient and be respectful and kind. Like, I think that's the way that we've got to look at this, at least that I like to look at things.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's fantastic. Got a couple more questions for you. The first question is, what energizes you?
Energizes me. I am a big achiever. So it energizes me when I hit a goal, and just even working on a goal, right? Like seeing progress. That's what energizes me. I have huge focus, so I'm fine with it being a hard goal and just seeing it chip away little by little.
I love that. I think that's the hard part about goals, is the little chipping away. Like we want it to be done. Like I'm in the process right now of writing a new book called Life in the Leadership Lane that is coming out in October. And it's such a monumental task, but you just keep chipping away. And then all of a sudden you'll look, October will be here and it'll be time to publish.
That's right. I can't wait to read that.
Oh, I'm energized about that and excited. Okay. This is the final question. One of my favorite questions, Connie. And the question is around this. What does Connie, 10 years old, she's around the corner, she's knocking at your front door. What is she going to tell you when you answer that door?
Oh, she's going to say how proud she is of me. And how she sees how much growth and change and all the different stuff has come together. And so, yeah, I think just, how proud.
I love that. Absolutely love that. Hey, I want to ask you one more question before we log off here. And it's a question I was thinking about, and it just now came back to me. We talked when we first got on the show, we talked about these HR certifications. Obviously you have certifications in both, and our conversation, I don't know if it was 5-7 years ago, it was a while back, was around, do we feel like they are a benefit when it comes to a job search or a promotion. And here we are later in our careers. What's your thoughts around certification? Do you think that people should invest in, and do you think they help?
Yeah, no, I mean, the tests aren't easy, right? So you can't just go and get one or pay for it. You definitely have to study some material. So it definitely shows that you've researched and you've studied and you've got a body of knowledge, and you can always pull from it later in life. So like the global one, I think that's a really hard one. A lot of people don't pass, but definitely I would say if you're interested in anything and you're a learner and it's important to you, I would definitely invest in a certification. You'll definitely, it does help you stand out. A lot of jobs in HR do require or say preferred for certifications. And it's a great sense of well-being, some information that maybe you never got in your job that you're getting from the textbook. So it balances out real work experience.
It can also be one of those things that I think you actually use the word well-being in there. I think it's also something that might give you, I don't know, a sense of, it could energy, I guess, if you decided, hey, I'm going to take that and you set that goal, right? So first of all, you got it set. So now all of a sudden you got something to look forward to. And then you go through the process of learning this. And I always like to say it's not necessarily about achieving that goal, but it's about the person you become going through that process. I feel like I became a better leader just going through the process of getting certified.
Yeah, definitely.
How about you? Did you feel that way?
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I was studying on vacation even because I wanted to take the test before the new form came in. It's invigorating, I think. I think it's a great idea if you invest in yourself in anything, a certification, a class, anything you do. I would say spend the money. Don't go broke, but spend the money and invest in yourself. Like if you're not investing in you, then who will?
Yeah, I love that. John Maxwell once said, if you're not going to bet on yourself, then who will bet on you?
Right?
Oh, that is so good. Oh my goodness. I could have this conversation with you all day. This has been so amazing. You are definitely driving in the leadership lane, and I appreciate you being on the show today. Hey, if somebody wanted to connect with you, how would be the best way they could connect?
Yeah, just go to LinkedIn and put in Connie Clark, GPHR. You can find me because I have the GPHR, SPHR after my name. And I got my phone number on there, my personal email. I love to connect. I love to meet new people and see what I can help with. So definitely send an invite.
Well, I'm so grateful. Appreciate you sharing your wisdom, your perspective, insights. There's so much here. And I absolutely cannot wait to share this episode. So again, thanks for being on. And most importantly, thank you for your friendship.
Thank you for your friendship. Have a beautiful rest of your week.
Awesome. I'll see you later.
Okay, thanks.